Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Medina Minute. We're here inside my favorite coffee house on the spur of Cool Beans, catching up with some friends from around town and just kind of seeing what's going on around Medina. So joining me today is my friend Rob Snow. Rob's with Stand Up for Downs and also has a lot of other cool stuff going on in life. Rob, how are you?
Good to see you.
We first met working on Pizza Palooza 2 years ago when Main Street Medina.
Comedy in the Cellar. You guys helped us out with the first Comedy in the Cellar, and that's been going great. So we do these stand-up events, as you know, down at the cellar of Main Street Cafe, and they've been going awesome. We bring in, that's a little bit of my background is in stand-up comedy.
Yeah, how'd you get into that?
Well,
Were you the funny kid in school?
Yeah, I think you get into it because
I was the funny kid.
I always joke about this because, if somebody was a doctor and was like, are you pretty good at being a doctor? I'm the best. Like, why would he say otherwise? Like,
sure.
I'm a very good doctor. And nobody would think like he was being too cocky or too, but if somebody's like, so are you funny? And if you're doing comedy, you kind of have to go, well, yeah, I've made some laughs before, people have laughed, but it is funny because you sound cocky if you say that. If you're like, oh yeah. But no, it does come from a background of class clowning and a lot of class clown awards. And
were you in the principal's office a lot?
That's the award. They send you to the principal's office. Last time. So I went down to Miami of Ohio.
Okay.
And just always thought about it. And then I visited my sister in Chicago and went to a place called Second City.
Sure, heard of it.
Second City Theater, Belushi, Aykroyd, Tina Fey, you name it. I mean, they all came from there.
Right.
Watch SNL and you see them all. And I was just like blown away. And then at the end of the show, they were like, 4 classes at Tech, and I went, classes? And I was still a senior, and I'm going, I don't really have plans after I graduate.
Sure.
And I was a mass communications major, which,
Close enough.
Close enough. And so I went up there, and it took me a little bit. Like, I got this job, kind of ironically, booking comedians for colleges.
Okay.
Total random gig. Just knew somebody who knew somebody. And then started working with those comedians, and just kind of, I'd go to these conferences with them, riff with them. And some of them were big comedians, people even now. And then I came back, and I was like, I gotta get in. Because it was actually those comedians who were like, Rob, you should do this. Like, you're a pretty funny guy. You should do this. And so I got into Second City and just started taking classes. I started working there.
Cool.
And I worked there at a really cool time. It was like Tina Fey was there.
Really?
Yeah. Rachel Dratch,
Okay.
Horatio Sands, like the janitor from Scrubs. He's on The Middle now. Like all these people. And, most of them like to, be more on the main stage, where I like to keep a low profile, cooking and cleaning dishes in the back. But
It'll work.
it still counts. The paychecks come from the same place. We work together. I worked with Tina. So that was
That'll go far.
Well, it's gone to here. It's gone to Medina. So that was the impetus, I guess, that got me going. And then I was doing some commercials and things in Chicago. And I gave stand-up, 3 years of my life back then. And then I quit for 10 years. I just kind of wanted the real job, had this real girlfriend who became my real wife. We had a real kid, all that stuff. And so we, 10 years. And then we moved to Medina.
What brought you here?
So my wife decided to retire from her job. She always says retire. And I'm like, you're 37. We call it quitting. So like, we're not opening up your 401k. It's not even allowed. So you're quitting. I like your spin, but no, she was just done. She had a very professional job in the insurance industry for a lot of years. And we wanted to work on having our second child.
Real child.
Our second real child, yeah.
Okay.
And so I said, Ohio's got half off housing, from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't want to go back to Canton. And then for my day job, I'm in sales, so I kind of need some airport close by. And we wanted a town. So the square, that was a big thing to us.
Okay.
Like, we wanted a community because, even in Chicago, we lived in a little neighborhood that had a town, like a little stores and shops and a little town to it, and we just love that. Here's my kissing up part.
Okay.
The things that you've done in the last 6-7 years, amazing. I mean, just amazing. And we've lived here for those 7 years, and we've seen it grow up. And so we're so happy that we found this place. We looked at 80 homes in 3 days. I swear to God, our realtor was just going nuts.
So back to your stand-up. So you moved here. You're away from that for 10 years. You moved here to have your second real child. How did you get back into stand-up?
So if you had been doing your job before I came,
Yes.
I don't know that I would have. Because honestly, I think coming from Chicago and coming somewhere as rural, and especially at the time, you know, the market was kind of starting to dip and really hit. This town had been known as being this great, people were just, you know, flying into this town and couldn't buy enough real estate. And then the market kind of hit, and then all of a sudden everything was like on hold. You saw too many stores that, you know, were vacant even around the square. You saw that development up on 18 that was there with nothing for years.
Right, and now it's like boom.
Yeah, now everything's so big now. So my point is, maybe I was a little bored. You know, maybe I was like looking for something to do, or maybe it just hit me. I always think there's a lot of serendipity to it because I start doing stand-up again, and I just got into it just as a kick, a release maybe.
Yeah. Open
Mics, guest sets. You know, the most I'd ever done in Chicago was like emceed. So I was the first guy at the comedy club, which is kind of it's a good starting position, but you certainly don't want to be there after 3 or 4 years. But I was like, I got some bits, I got some jokes now. I kind of want to just get out and say. Well, around that exact same time, we have our second son, Henry, who has Down syndrome.
Right.
So this is going on, and comedy's going on, and then I'm getting involved in the Down syndrome community, and I'm realizing, you know, all this stuff, but I'm getting better at comedy.
Okay.
And I think I was getting better because I didn't care much about it in terms of money. It wasn't like going to be a financial, you know, means for me. I was just doing it, you know, for the fun of it.
More like a hobby?
A hobby,
outlet?
Completely, an outlet. And even when I travel, I'd go to places and do it.
Yeah.
So, but then I started getting a little bit better, and I actually got to the point where the Funny Bone down in Columbus asked me to feature.
Oh, how cool.
Night. They had me come down for a couple auditions.
Cool.
They wanted to see 20 minutes, and they wanted to see 25. Because when you feature, you got to be able to do 30 minutes of funny.
Is that hard?
It's hard.
I mean, it's one thing to do improv, but usually playing off of somebody, where you're playing off the audience, but it's still Rob on stage for 30 minutes talking.
Yeah,
and if you're
improv
tanking,
is hard
you're
in a
tanking.
certain way because it's, you know, off the cuff.
Right.
But you do get to play off somebody. Comedy, you've already got your set. You know your bits. There's some improv if you get some hecklers and things like that. So you can organize your set. But it's still hard in the sense that, for me especially, because I only went out once every now and then to go practice.
Okay.
So I didn't get to really try out my bits too much. This will sound weird, but it really was the mirror. And the mirror in the bathroom. And I just had to really count on my timing and my jokes, and that's how I would, and be confident that is an actual funny joke. So a lot of it didn't actually go off that well.
That just seems so hard.
It is. I'm telling you, it's the dumbest job in the world. I don't know why.
But maybe
anybody
one of the
would
most
even
challenging
think
and
about
most brilliant as well.
Well, those are big adjectives. Challenging, definitely. I mean, it is. I do really admire comics who actually can do it and can come in for 45 minutes or even an hour and just blow the socks off.
It's hard.
Come up with new material. I mean, it's...
Sure. Do you write your own stuff?
Yeah.
Does Henry write some of it for you?
Well, in a way.
I know he feeds a lot of it
Yeah,
to
they
you.
feed. Both the boys feed. My wife feeds a lot of it. So I have a lot now about family and everything like that. I started, so it kind of morphs into more because I started doing that, and it was on so I get to feature, and I'm down there, and it was great, and really felt like, wow, I did it, you know. And featuring is more, I don't know, you might compare it to playing AAA ball. Like it's pro. You're a pro.
Yeah.
And you have it's not the big, you know, it's not major leagues, but you're still up there. You know, you're in Akron playing ball, or whatever. But and you're getting paid for it, and it's legit. And I love that. But then on the very last night, I sat there, and I was away from my family those 4 nights, and I was like, this has been great. But before I went on stage, I had this realization, which was I'm never going to do comedy in this manner again.
Really?
Yeah, and because I just, missing the family and everything, and
Sure.
like I said, I got myself so involved in the Down syndrome community that I knew I had something to say, but more about that.
Okay.
And I wanted to tell people about my journey, and our journey, raising our son, and that sort of thing, and kind of talk to him about, the misconceptions about Down syndrome and about
Right.
people with disabilities, and how great this world is and can be. And so that night I started writing a show called We Need a Sign, and that became, and then I performed that, and it was an hour-long show, more of like a one-man show versus, say, stand-up comedy. It was a slideshow with it and everything. And I did that in downtown Cleveland in 2011, and then all of a sudden it kind of took off. It got a mind of its own. I created 2 other shows around it.
Nice.
And then one was for like more high schools and junior highs about bullying and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the other was more of a universal show about just kind of taking those biggest challenges in life and finding ways to minimize them. And so and now I do that kind of all around the country.
That's
which
fantastic.
is crazy. It's crazy how all this is morphed in just from little Medina.
Just from little
and
Medina.
Wanting to do stand up and how it's morphed into what I think is probably where I'm meant to be. So then that all led to Stand Up for Downs. I know, it's crazy. That's a long way of saying everything, but
it's a
journey, I know.
So tell me a little bit more about Stand Up for Downs. I mean, you're doing it for a couple years. Obviously, it's very near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
What is the goal of what you do, or what is the mission behind what you do?
The mission is to enhance the lives of those with Down syndrome through humor. I took everything I just said to you guys here, I took that and said, that's what I'm decent at. I had started a little comedy series in Canton, Ohio with an old high school buddy. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I started to learn how to book shows, how to produce shows, working with all the comedians around Cleveland that are great and even beyond Cleveland. And then really, getting my personal act stronger. Mm-hmm. So it was, it's funny because I think about how Stand Up for Downs came to be, and there's all these pieces where I used to book comics my first job in Chicago.
Yeah.
I do sales, I do management in my day job. All that helps to now run an organization. And what is the organization? The only thing I know that we're decent at is producing comedy events.
Sure.
And so I was like, I started to see when I would go around to speak at these conferences and stuff, all these different organizations, Down syndrome organizations that needed money. It's the largest genetic condition and the least funded by the National Institute of Health. And so I said, selfishly, my wife and I selfishly said, how do we help our son? How do we get the best medical research and the best treatment for him going forward if things start to happen medically? How do we raise awareness so that he's not picked on in school, so that he gets jobs one day? Things like that. So we said our contribution could be just raising money for these organizations that are already doing it so well.
Can we, sometime in the future, expect to see a father-son show? So I know the one year at Pizza Palooza, Henry just had me giggling.
Oh, you might not even know this. There already is. So Charlie's now 10, 11 in September. And Charlie was our first child, and he's got a good sense of humor. And last year we did a show in Chicago, and it was on his birthday, his 10th birthday. And I said, I'm really sorry, but this is the only night we can do this. We're going to make it up to you. And he said, well, can I go to the show? And I said, well, yeah, you could go for a little bit. And we had a big national headliner coming in for it. And he goes, well, can I perform? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, can I do stand-up? And I said, do you have an act? He goes, well, I can get one. I was like, you could just go get one. Like, it's that easy, Charlie. He goes, yeah, I got some things I'm thinking about.
Dad.
I got stuff. I said, what? Yeah, you know what? If you go get one, and I'll help you hone it and everything, but you come back with some ideas. So he does. He comes back from school with this very perceptive bit about kids that is actually about all people.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, that's really good. And so we worked on that bit, and then we kind of added a couple others, and so now I'm writing for my son, which was a weird thing. It was easier in a way, which is really funny.
Sure.
So, and then he performs at this event. Now we had practiced, and he got it to about a 3.5 minute set, which is longer than you
That's long.
speak a lot. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And he gets up there, and I'm introducing him, and I knew he knew it well, but until the lights hit you, there were 280 people at this event. And you're staring into lights and
Sink
you
or
can't
swim.
see anybody. It's sink or swim. And he grabs a mic from me. I go, this next performer has been performing in such places as our living room, our bedroom, occasionally our bathroom. And I was like, Charlie Snow. And he grabs the mic from me, one-handed. I couldn't grab the mic because my hand shook so much for my first 10 outings in stand-up. He just grabs it. He starts walking around the stage, doesn't miss one word of his show.
Really?
And so from there, and it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. But from there, it's
I'm looking it up when I get back.
Charlie
to the office.
Snow's first stand-up comedy. Charlie Snow's first stand-up comedy, and nails it.
Really?
And so he's done it about 6 times since. He's done the now he's a regular on the Comedy in the Cellar shows, and all the headliners are like, oh my gosh, like this kid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of a, and what's funny about it is I could do great. I don't always do great, but I could do amazing. And if my son's performing, everybody does the same thing. It's like, your son is amazing. Like, it's never, you were great, Rob. Like, it's just,
Do Charlie and Henry have an act? Do they play off each other?
Henry introduces him. Not in any of the shows yet.
Okay.
But when we're practicing at home, Henry always introduces him and sometimes upstages him.
Really?
Henry will come up with things that are just, I don't know why, and it's just, he'll be like, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Lemonade Snow. We don't call him Lemonade. I've never heard that be called by Charlie, but Henry just calls him Lemonade. I go, that's an awesome nickname. So now every now and then I'll call Charlie Lemonade Snow.
That's awesome.
So we'll see. Henry's a ham though. He's just, he's a trip, and everybody knows it.
So we need to have like a snow show on the square, or
There might be.
or prior to Rally in the Alley, have the Snows take the stage.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
like the Von Snow family comedies or something.
Yeah, that would be fun.
The Von Snow family crackers, something funny.
Now that we're talking about it, it might not sound so good.
No, it does. Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate the
been
time.
fun.
We're learning more about you and your family and Stand Up for Downs. I know you have some events coming up soon. Hope those go very well for you.
Good.
And hope to see you more around the square.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been awesome. Good luck with
to see
everything.
you. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you.